Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
There you have it then. 166 is what England have managed. It's that kind of score which you're never quite sure until the end of the game. But we're going to ask Tom Moody, Ajit Agarkar and Mahela Jayawardene what they made of it. 160 they said was par. That's what Mahela said. They all gave their numbers. And it was Tom Moody, wasn't it, on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout, powered by Dell, who said 167. They're one short, Tom, but well done.
Yeah, just sloppy between the wickets, weren't they? Just missed out on that one run.
Would you take that though, Tom, if you're England?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good score. I don't think it's a great score. Yeah, it just seemed like they never really got into their stride. Now, whether that was just the pressure that New Zealand put on them with the ball, or whether that was the conditions, I think probably the latter. I sensed that the surface was a little bit too paced and just a little bit uneven. So I think given that's the situation, I think it's probably a very competitive score. And as we always say in finals, runs on the board.
Mahela, did you sense some sort of nerves in that start from England, who ended about a run a ball for the first half of that innings?
Yeah, I think definitely a bit of nerves. I think, you saw Johnny Bairstow wasn't himself in that first, 4 or 5 overs. Usually is much more confident and more aggressive. Even Josh Butler, he didn't want to lose his wicket. He knew how important he was to the England lineup. So you could see that. I think England did really well in the middle overs to try and, break that momentum and get some tempo going. I think the two left-handers batted really well. New Zealand also probably didn't bowl that well in a 4 over gap. But other than that, I think New Zealand will be happy. I think 160 is probably a pass score. Tom's right, felt the wicket was a bit too paced. You see the up and down. It all depends. I mean, if the wicket stays the same, this could be a winning score. But if there's dew going to come in, it might slide on much nicer. The likes of Kane Williamson, Conway, then that'll make things easier for them because these are two batsmen who's going to control things in the middle. They're going to play to a tempo, and if New Zealand gets a good start, this might not be enough.
Ajit, you think it's the kind of score where both teams wouldn't mind it?
I think so, although England would have ideally liked a few more runs. I mean, I'm with Mahela and Tom. I think that's the other advantage, I think, sometimes of winning the toss. Perhaps it starts a little bit tacky, and those 4 or 5 overs at the start, some great bowling as well. I think New Zealand didn't have a lot of luck. With a bit more luck, they might have picked up a wicket, maybe two at the start. The ball swung a little bit, stuck in the pitch. We'll have to see if it plays. I just felt it started playing better as the game went on. And thanks to Moeen Ali, David Malan, and a few hits from Livingston, they've at least got to that score. But I just feel it's a bit below par, the score. And if the dude arrives, then it's certainly below par. But even otherwise, I think the pitch has started playing a little bit better than when the game started.
England get their batting order right for you, Mahela. Moeen Ali coming up. We've not seen a lot of with the bat, but we know he's in form.
No, I think they predicted it pretty well. Obviously, New Zealand's left arm spin option, the finger spinner, was under pressure. You only bowled 1 over. And then luckily they had fall back option, Jimmy Neesham. They ended up bowling that last over. I thought he did a brilliant job. It could have really gone, could have given a lot more runs. So I think England tactically did make the press, but New Zealand also had the answers for that. They had Jimmy Neesham. They had the off spinner coming in and bowling as well. So, it was a nice little cat and mouse game. You punch me and evade those little punches. So, because the way England set themselves up, try and dominate the spin in the middle, I think New Zealand got away with that as well. Yes, there were few overs, they went for runs, but, damage was minimized.
Yeah, it felt like a game of chess as we predicted, Tom. But do you think New Zealand got it right not to bowl Santner even one more over once the two left-handers were in?
The only thing that I thought Santner could have bowled over in the power play. I know the ball swung in the first 3 or 4 overs, but I was sort of half expecting Kane Williamson to bring him on that fifth over, purely because he is a good matchup to the two right-handers who were at the crease at the time, and also knowing that he would have been under pressure with bowling Santner in the middle of the innings because of England's left-hand options. So that's the only thing I could pick out of the 20 overs.
If this score has to be challenged by England, Ajit, will spin play a bigger role? Will their seamers play a bigger role? Their spinners are actually in good form, and we know Moeen Ali does tend to bowl a lot in the power play. What sort of bowling is going to be challenging now in the second half?
No, we'll have to wait and see if the pitch does play the same. Then the seamers also become challenging because it did, it did stick in the pitch a little bit. Went through a bit quicker at times. There was a bit of movement. There'll be obviously they'd be hoping that there's very little, if any, due at all, which will make their life a lot easier. Then it becomes a lot harder task for New Zealand, even though it feels like it's a few runs short. If there is no dew, then the pitch, obviously with the natural wear and tear, if it's not settled down, might grip the surface. The ball might grip the surface a bit more, then the spin comes into play. The spin will be just as important. I think Adil Rashid and both Moeen Ali. Moeen Ali is used more with in terms of matchups, but both have been very impressive. But England's seam attack is good. I think they've got a bit of pace in it, and Chris Wokes could be very handy with the new ball if it does as much as it did for the New Zealand bowlers.
Okay, this is one of the tougher ones to predict, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Tom, lead the way. Prediction.
I think Adil Rashid is going to open the bowling with Wokes, and I think New Zealand are going to get close, but they're not going to have a cigar.
Oh, Mahela.
Well, you had to sometimes go against Tom on these situations. I think New Zealand's going to have the cigar and probably a glass of wine as well
Yeah.
afterwards. A good New
He took,
Zealand wine.
he took his time as always, Mahela. He's played it late, but he's middled it. Ajit.
Yeah, I don't think England have enough. I just feel New Zealand don't quite have the batting. I think one guy is going to have to bat or play a really big knock or whatever that big knock could be, 60, 70 or even 100. If that happens, they might get over the line. I think England might just scrape this through.
All right, interesting. We'll pick up the chat at the end of it. Anyone for super over? I'll go for super over because it always happens when these two come together. Even outside of the World Cup, it's happened when they met in bilateral series. So we're yet to have one in this World Cup. Will we have it today? We'll pick up your thoughts at the end of it, regardless. On Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell. Once again, on our way out, some stunning visuals from the host cities in the UAE. Visuals powered by Dell.